On a deserted road, Lee Abbott's family was walking with extreme caution. Suddenly, their youngest son, Bo, turned on the toy he was holding. The sound from the toy sent the entire family into a state of panic. As Lee rushed toward him, a monstrous creature emerged from the forest and sprinted toward Bo. Before Lee could reach him, the terrifying monster snatched Bo away. Time had passed, but the pain of Bo's death was still fresh in the hearts of the family. The world was terrorized by terrifying creatures that attacked any sound. These monsters had an outer layer so tough that ordinary weapons couldn't harm them. Lee had figured out that these creatures hunted purely through sound. At least 3 such monsters roamed their area, so the entire family had learned to communicate using only gestures. Lee had become accustomed to surviving in this horrifying environment. Every day he sent out radio signals, hoping for help, but no response ever came. Despite this, he refused to give up. Even in these difficult times, the family was moving forward with new hope. His wife, Evelyn, was soon going to give birth. To ensure the baby's safety, they prepared a special soundproof cradle, and the children lined the basement walls with thick layers of cloth and newspapers to prevent any noise from escaping. As Evelyn's delivery date approached, Lee decided to go out and gather essential supplies. Before leaving, he spread soft soil on the paths to muffle the sound of footsteps. Their daughter, Reagan, insisted on going with him, but Reagan had trouble hearing, so Lee refused her request. Instead, he gave her a special type of headphone that he had built himself to help her hear sounds more clearly. However, when he left with his son, Marcus, to gather supplies, Reagan ignored his warning and quietly sneaked out of the house. Meanwhile, after doing the laundry, someone stepped outside to dry the clothes. As they placed their foot on the stairs, their scarf got caught on a sharp, protruding nail stuck in the wooden plank. They yanked it free forcefully, but the nail was now standing upright, a dangerous hazard they hadn't noticed. On the other hand, Reagan reached the place where she had last seen her younger brother. Overcome with guilt, she picked up the same toy that had accidentally made a noise, leading to her brother Bo's death. She deeply regretted her mistake. As Lee and Marcus were returning with supplies, Marcus accidentally bumped into his father. Lee stopped immediately, his gaze fixed on a bush in front of them. Following his father's stare, Marcus saw a man standing at a distance next to a woman's lifeless body. The sight sent chills down Marcus's spine. Before they could fully grasp the situation, Lee pulled Marcus behind him and assessed what was happening. From the man's body language, Lee quickly realized that the woman on the ground was his wife. The man was utterly broken and no longer cared about his own life. Lee gestured for him to stay quiet, but the man was beyond reason. He let out a loud scream. Seeing this, Lee immediately grabbed Marcus in his arms and ran. One question kept racing through his mind. If death was inevitable, at least he could have given us a chance to escape. Lee quickly ran and hid behind a tree. Fortunately, he moved at the right time because as soon as he hid, the terrifying monsters arrived. The man's wish had been fulfilled. He had now reunited with his wife. On the other hand, Marcus was so terrified by what he saw that his soul trembled. Both of them held their breath and waited until the monsters left. The evening had fallen, but Lee had not yet returned home. Meanwhile, Evelyn had no information about her husband or her daughter, Reagan. This worry was eating her up inside. The situation worsened when, suddenly, her water broke. Her delivery could start at any moment. She quickly moved toward the basement so she could use the lights there to alert Lee. But as soon as she stepped onto the stairs, her foot landed on a sharp nail sticking out. The sudden pain was unbearable, and she couldn't suppress her scream. The photo frame she was holding also fell to the ground. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Evelyn endured the pain, carefully pulled her foot away, and turned on the red lights outside the house. This was a signal to Lee that danger was lurking. However, the noise from the fallen photo frame caught the monster's attention, and it started moving toward her. Evelyn knew she had to reach the soundproof room in the basement as quickly as possible. Any noise could be deadly. Thinking fast, she grabbed an alarm clock and set it in a corner of the house. Within moments, the monster was drawn to the alarm sound, giving Evelyn a chance to escape. As soon as Lee reached home, he saw the red lights glowing outside and immediately understood that Evelyn was in danger. He rushed inside, but just then, another monster entered the outer room, forcing Evelyn to abandon the path to the basement and run upstairs instead. Lee and Marcus decided to split up to handle the situation. Marcus moved away and started making loud noises to distract the monsters. Meanwhile, Lee grabbed a gun and entered the house to rescue Evelyn. Her condition was worsening rapidly. She was writhing in pain, and blood was continuously flowing. With each passing moment, her agony increased. Meanwhile, Marcus set off some fireworks in the nearby field. The loud sounds diverted the monster's attention. As soon as the fireworks exploded, Evelyn let out a painful cry. Hearing this, Lee gripped his gun tightly and sprinted inside. On the other hand, Reagan, who had been far away until now, saw the state of the house and rushed there. When Lee reached the bathroom, he only found bloodstains. Evelyn was nowhere to be seen. His heart pounded, and he was in shock when suddenly, a bloody handprint appeared on the glass of the bathtub. Lee immediately turned towards it and realized that Evelyn was still alive. When he saw his wife holding their newborn baby in her arms, emotions overwhelmed him. He couldn't even imagine the excruciating pain she had just endured. Although they were momentarily safe, Marcus wasn't as lucky. While trying to escape, Marcus accidentally collided with a tire and fell unconscious on the ground. A little later, Lee ensured their safety but realized that the danger hadn't passed. The newborn's cries could attract the terrifying monsters at any moment. And just as he feared, that's exactly what happened. But in this moment of crisis, Lee quickly hid Evelyn and the baby in the soundproof room. He put an oxygen mask on the baby and placed him in a specially prepared soundproof cradle. As Reagan was returning home, she noticed a faint light in the fields. Curious, she moved toward it and had just picked up a flashlight lying on the ground when suddenly a hand grabbed her. It was none other than her brother Marcus, who had just regained consciousness. Seeing Marcus safe, Reagan breathed a sigh of relief. After that, both of them climbed a nearby tall tower and lit a fire so that Lee could receive their signal. But unfortunately, by the time Lee had ensured Evelyn's safety and was checking the cameras to locate Reagan and Marcus, the fire had already gone out. Reagan then decided that instead of just sitting there, they had to take action, while Marcus believed that Lee would definitely come to get them. Just then, he suddenly lost his balance and fell straight into the grain silo. The loud noise not only caught Lee's attention, but also attracted the dangerous monsters. Seeing Marcus sinking into the grain, Reagan jumped down without hesitation and struggled to save him. She pushed a wooden door toward him so he could use it to stay afloat. Somehow, Marcus managed to get out, but now Reagan got stuck in the grain. Marcus immediately tried to pull her out, and after some effort, he succeeded. However, before they could breathe a sigh of relief, a terrifying monster jumped straight into the silo. The two quickly covered themselves with the wooden door, but even the slightest sound they made alerted the monster. As the monster approached them, the hearing aid in Reagan's ears suddenly started emitting an unbearably loud sound. This sound was intolerable for the monster, causing it to writhe in pain and eventually flee. Reagan and Marcus realized they didn't have much time, so they quickly ran out of the place. While escaping, they met Lee, who felt relieved to see them safe. But their happiness was short-lived, as a terrifying roar of another monster echoed nearby. Lee quickly instructed the children to hide in the car. Meanwhile, he picked up an axe and prepared to face the monster. Suddenly, there was movement on the roof. As Lee suspected the monster was there, he swung his axe to attack. But before he could do anything, the monster hurled him away with great force. Seeing this, Marcus panicked and screamed loudly. Reagan quickly pulled him into the car, but Marcus's scream alerted the monster, which immediately started attacking the vehicle. At that moment, the hearing aid emitted the same high-pitched sound again. The monster began writhing in pain again, but unable to bear it, Reagan accidentally switched off the device. She didn't realize that this was their last hope. Now, without any hindrance, the monster attacked the car mercilessly. Seeing this, Lee gathered his courage and stood up. He understood that he had no way to kill the monster with the axe, so he chose another way: to sacrifice himself to save his children. After Lee's sacrifice, the children somehow used the car's slope to escape safely back home, where Evelyn had been watching everything through the CCTV cameras. She had already lost her husband, but there was no time to grieve because the danger was still looming over them. The ferocious monsters were not ready to give up and had followed them all the way home. Evelyn quickly grabbed the children and hid them in the basement. As soon as she entered the room, she stood completely still, holding her breath, gripping the gun tightly, and ready for anything. Suddenly, the camera screens flickered and a sharp noise echoed through the air. The moment the monsters heard the sound, they went berserk. They started pounding on the basement door violently. Evelyn and the children slowly backed away, but soon they were pressed against the wall. Meanwhile, Reagan's eyes fell on the old notes left by her father. She immediately recalled that these monsters were highly sensitive to a particular type of sound. Without hesitation, she turned on the amplifier in her headphones and produced a loud noise. As the high-pitched sound echoed through the room, the monster writhed in pain. Evelyn looked at her daughter in astonishment. Reagan saw the effect of her experiment, so she connected her headphones to the nearby microphone, amplifying the sound many times over. Now the monster collapsed to the ground, writhing for a moment before going completely still. Evelyn couldn't believe her eyes. Was the monster truly defeated? But suddenly it sprang back to life and lunged straight at them. Evelyn knew she couldn't afford to waste any time. She immediately grabbed her gun and shot the monster straight in the head. The creature's body had already been torn open due to the sound waves, allowing the bullet to pierce directly into its brain. Within moments, the monster fell to the ground, lifeless. But it wasn't over yet. The loud gunshot attracted more monsters. Evelyn checked the cameras and saw that 2 more creatures were approaching the house. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She looked at Reagan, and the two exchanged a knowing glance. Reagan quickly turned up the microphone's volume, and finally they became hunters to hunt. And with this, the story ends here. Subscribe to this channel for more horror stories like this.